Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Completionist. For this episode, guys, we're not talking about video games today, and it's just Derek for today. So anyway, guys, let me introduce you to my really good friend, John. And the topic we're going to talk about is something that both of us are very passionate about, is that even though my channel is mostly known for video games, the biggest thing that me and John have in common is our love of slasher films. And every time that I come home, which I don't come home very often, but one of the things that both of us do is we try to marathon as many slasher films as we can, both new and old. So what we wanted to do today was something, we were talking about for a while. And I'm not only a completionist in video games, but I'm actually a completionist when it comes to film series as well. And one film series that both of us have watched in its entirety is the Friday the 13th series. And it's a series that we have a lot of fondness for, and it's one of the most popular and biggest slasher franchises out there. So I thought it'd make for a great idea that we would list the films from our least favorite to most favorite, because for as much as we like slasher films, there are actually certain aspects of slasher films we like and don't like, and that's why we think our lists are going to be completely different when it comes to actually ranking these films.
I think it's going to be a little bit easier ranking our least favorite as opposed to our most favorite, because we kind of have a general idea as to how the quality of the Friday the 13th films went on as the series progressed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. It's going to be interesting to see how your list varies from mine.
Yeah, because the major factor that we're going to base our lists on is not necessarily on the professional pedigree of the films, but it's more for the sake of our personal enjoyment. And that could be based upon a lot of factors. That could be based on the actor who plays Jason Voorhees, the quality of the kills, the actual plot, the victims, the overall pacing of the film. There's a lot of factors to consider, when it comes to enjoying these films. But that's the best thing about subjectivity is, there's no right or wrong way to actually rank these films. So I'm actually pretty excited to see how both of our lists are going to turn out. So how did you come across the Friday the 13th series for the first time?
How did I come across Friday the 13th? I think my first experience with Friday the 13th was, if you can believe it, it had nothing to do with the original 80s series. Like, I think up until part 8, which was Jason Takes Manhattan.
That's right.
Those kind of fell below my radar. The first one I saw and I remember being genuinely creeped out by was Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. And again, it's not the kind of film that most people would equate with as being a traditional Friday the 13th. I mean, I think it has its, it's sort of a guilty pleasure, I guess is what it boils down to. I mean, people kind of like it for the same reason that the minority kind of like Season of the Witch from the Halloween series,
yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not your traditional slasher fest, but again, it's still, and I think I was like maybe 10 or 11 years old when I first saw it, so needless to say, it traumatized me for quite some time.
Yeah, it's kind of similar, with regards to me, because the first Friday the 13th film I actually seen was rented by my older sister, who is 6 years older than me, and I actually watched my first Friday the 13th film when I was 8 or 9 years old, and it was part 4, the final chapter. And one of the things is, probably up until the age of 12, I had watched 3 Friday the 13th movies. I'd watched the final chapter, A New Beginning, and Jason Takes Manhattan. And after Jason Takes Manhattan, as a kid, I wouldn't watch scary movies anymore. They used to give me really, really vicious nightmares.
Part 8 gave you nightmares?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 4, 5, and 8, just like legitimately gave me nightmares. And for a couple of years after the age of 12, I wouldn't watch scary movies anymore. It wasn't until I was 16, 17 years old that I actually picked them up again and actually really started to enjoy the slasher subgenre. I even remember, my sister rented Friday the 13th Part 4 from from a house in which their basement was an arcade, but it actually doubled as a VHS rental spot in a very small community in Newfoundland. And she rented the movie, and I actually watched it, and for as scared and as intimidating, as it was, there was something slightly addicting to it. So I ended up watching part 5 after that, but then afterwards I didn't touch another Friday the 13th film until part 8. But then after part 8, I just used to get vicious nightmares and I wouldn't watch slasher films anymore. But,
so what would you say it is that draws you to the Friday the 13th film? Is it how the story kind of progresses? I mean, there's not much progression. I mean, we kind of know how everyone starts and how each one ends, but would you say it's like how Jason's character evolves, or is it more the inventiveness of the kills?
I think it's more of the inventiveness of the kills, but it's even the character itself, because I guess Jason always brought about this huge, intimidating impact. There's just something scary, about a hockey mask, and this is coming from a guy who played minor hockey all throughout his childhood. And it's just to have a big lurking hulk of a man just basically chase you with a wide array of weapons, and it was just something very scary and very intimidating about it. And regardless of all the sequels, one of the things I always found myself amazed about the film franchise itself is that they never ran out of ways on how to kill people, because some of the kills just got more inventive, and then that was one of the things that ultimately appealed to me as a horror fan for the Friday the 13th series, is because they just made the kills that much more inventive, that much more decorative, and as I got to watch more of the films, I actually had more of an appreciation for it.
Interesting. And on a side note, I actually happen to have a brother named Jason who also played hockey. So
okay, fair enough.
That's just a side note. I'm not really sure what that has to do with the film, but anyways.
No worries. So anyway, guys, we're going to rank our films from worst to first, so let's get started. Number 12. So for number 12, see if this is flipped. Oh, it's flipped the wrong way. Okay, Jason X, and for me it's part 9, which is Jason Goes to Hell.
So why was part 9 your least favorite?
I think what it came from, when it came to part 9, is that, that's when the Paramount lost the license and it went to New Line. And I think that's the part when it just went all to hell. In this, literally, Jason Goes to Hell, but they just said, fuck you to continuity. And even though, Kane Hodder, played Jason in that film, and yes, he does make a good Jason, but unfortunately the film suffers from very little Jason in it. And I think one of the biggest problems I had with the film is that I just did not like the overall look of Jason. The hockey mask was almost deteriorated, it was literally melted into his skull. I didn't even find the kills that great, except the kill, of the girl in the tent, getting impaled and then sliced upwards. And the diner massacre was a good scene in itself, but the fact that you didn't even get to see Jason a lot in the film, because he transferred from body to body to body, and I thought it was kind of inventive, where Kane Hodder played a SWAT team officer, and he actually got
poking fun at himself.
Yeah, poking fun at himself, and him getting killed in the morgue. But it's the fact that there was very little Jason in it, and I just didn't buy the whole body transference thing, and that's one of the reasons why I considered it, literally, the weakest sequel in the series.
All right, well, yeah. For that, I'll agree. I mean, it was a bit of a stretch, but the only thing bigger than a stretch in the way that Paramount took the direction of the franchise. The only other bigger stretch would be Jason in space. And personally, Jason X was one of my least favorite, because I think this is like the kind of move they would have made if like Andromeda Strain had like a Halloween episode. And they even recycled like several of the actors from Andromeda Strain into this movie for whatever reason. And I mean, the kills weren't all that good. I think really the only reason people latched onto this was A, Kane Hodder was Jason, and B, people just wanted to see Uber Jason. It was like this concept piece that people just wanted to see brought to life on screen, and but again, I don't think the payoff was really there, and I think the actors were wooden. I mean, the cryo kill was pretty good. Yeah. But that's probably like its only saving grace, really.
There's often a common saying that they say, when you take your horror villains and you put them in space, that's where horror franchises go to die, because look at Leprechaun 4, which took place in space, and that was just beyond horrible. You know, Leprechaun Boys in the Hood, Leprechaun in the Hood was actually better than Leprechaun in Space, but. I actually have a little bit of fondness for Jason X, and it's going to be a little. It's going to be placed differently on my list, just because I kind of enjoy the meta humor. I kind of enjoyed a lot more. It's for me. It's not supposed to be taken seriously as a Friday the 13th film, but I got my enjoyment out of it anyway. But you'll see it on my list where it actually ranks.
Number 11.
Alright guys, for number 11,
Seriously, we have differing tastes.
yeah, seriously, we have different tastes. So
you go first.
So I have part 5, a new beginning, and obviously he has.
We're seriously not gonna like my best of list. I swear to God.
Yeah, neither are you. You're definitely not gonna like my number 4. So my biggest problems with part 5, let me say the good out of part 5. Part 5 has some good kills. Frankly, part 5 actually has my favorite kill in the entire Friday the 13th franchise. I love kills that are inventive, because look, you can hack a person up with a machete or an axe in different ways, but I love it when Jason, or a person who wants to play as Jason, actually gets a little inventive. And my favorite kill in the franchise is when Buddy finds his girlfriend's eyes cut up with a pair of hedge clippers, and he backs into a tree, and a strap is wrapped around his head, and then it's twisted with a branch until his skull breaks. And I think that kill is incredibly inventive, it's incredibly unique, and that's why it's my favorite kill in the Friday the 13th franchise. But unfortunately, part 5, it suffers from the biggest problem that we don't actually have Jason. We have a guy who masquerades as Jason by the name of Roy, in which he witnesses, his son get murdered, and unfortunately it causes him to go mad, and then he starts killing, all the people at the halfway house and that kind of thing. For me, one of the reasons why I don't like this film is that it's just, the acting is incredibly painful, but you can't really expect the best acting out of a Friday the 13th film anyway. But it's just like, I didn't enjoy the look of Jason. I didn't enjoy the fact that it actually wasn't Jason. Even the characters, even the people that got killed, they were not likable, and I just consider it overall just one of the weakest entries in the Friday the 13th series.
We'll agree to disagree. But for me, part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Why didn't I like this? Well, for all the reasons that I also don't like a lot of the other films. Probably for most of the same reasons that I didn't like Jason X. But Jason Takes Manhattan, it just seemed to me as though he was acting a little bit out of character, is just what I think. Because Jason is like a mindless killing machine. He will kill whatever crosses his path, basically. And we've seen like the kind of kills that he's gotten away with in part 1, part 2, part 3. He will kill, it doesn't matter if you're disabled or whatever, he'll just hack and slash right through you. But on the streets of Manhattan, that doesn't happen. I mean, he trashes some guy's, boombox, and then he just lets them walk. That's not Jason. Jason would have just, slashed through all of them. Then they would have called the cops, he would have slashed through the cops. But I suppose that's like a direction that they didn't take it because, I don't know, budgetary restraints, maybe? I don't know. But that's just my feel on the whole Jason Takes Manhattan thing. I thought that was a direction in which, it was more of a stretch for me, personally, even for a series like Friday the 13th.
Perfectly understandable.